Chapter 1. Introduction. Welcome to a journey into the very core of human existence. This is not just another psychology book, it is an invitation to understand who we really are, what we can become, and how far the human spirit can reach. In this work, we will explore ideas of growth, self-discovery, and the powerful drive toward becoming our best selves. Instead of focusing only on illness, weakness, or conflict, we will turn our eyes toward health, strength, and the highest possibilities of human life. Think of it this way. Psychology has often looked down into the basement of the human mind, into fears, traumas, and neuroses. But here, we are invited to climb upward, toward the rooftop, toward sunlight, creativity, love, and meaning. This book is about being, about what it means to live fully and authentically. It is about people who are not just surviving, but thriving. People who are reaching what Abraham Maslow calls self-actualization, a state where life feels rich, complete, and deeply satisfying. So as you listen, prepare to question your assumptions about yourself, about society, and about human nature itself. This is not just theory, it is a call to live differently, to live more deeply, and perhaps, to discover who you were meant to be. Chapter 2. Self-actualizing people. Now, let us step deeper into the heart of Maslow's vision. In this chapter, we meet a special kind of human being, those whom Maslow calls self-actualizers. Who are they? They are not perfect saints, nor flawless geniuses. They are ordinary men and women who have managed to grow into something extraordinary. They live fully, love deeply, and express their talents with freedom. Maslow studied real people who seemed to embody this fullness of life, people like Albert Einstein, Eleanor Roosevelt, Abraham Lincoln, and even everyday individuals who showed the same spirit. He discovered certain qualities that they shared, patterns that marked them as different. Self-actualizing people, they see reality more clearly. Instead of being trapped by illusions or fears, they accept the truth even when it is uncomfortable. They are comfortable with themselves. They don't waste energy pretending to be someone else. They are spontaneous, natural, and genuine. They focus on problems outside themselves rather than being trapped in self-centered worries. They enjoy deep, meaningful relationships, but they also value solitude and independence. And most beautifully, they often experience moments of intense joy, awe, and wonder, what Maslow calls peak experiences. But let us be clear, self-actualization is not some distant dream. It is a possibility within each of us. It is not about being rich, famous, or powerful. It is about being real, being whole, being the best version of who you already are. This chapter is an invitation to look at your own life, your own growth, and to ask, am I moving toward my highest potential? Am I becoming the person I was meant to be? Chapter 3. Theory of being. Up to now, we have spoken of people who reach toward their highest selves. But now, Maslow takes us deeper into the very foundations of what it means to be. What is being? It is not just existing, not just breathing and surviving. Being is about living with depth, meaning, and authenticity. It is the difference between a life half-lived and a life fully embraced. Maslow explains that psychology, for too long, has been preoccupied with what goes wrong with illness, conflict, and pathology. But if we only study sickness, we miss the brilliance of health. If we only study failure, we miss the lessons of success. So, here, he proposes a new psychology, a psychology of being. The psychology of being focuses on wholeness instead of brokenness, strength instead of weakness, potential instead of limitation, joy instead of despair. Maslow also speaks of the qualities of being, values, or what he calls be values. These are timeless qualities that self-actualizing people experience and cherish: truth, beauty, goodness, wholeness, justice, simplicity, aliveness. When a person is aligned with these be values, life feels luminous, rich, and profoundly satisfying. They no longer chase after shallow pleasures because they have found something far deeper, the very essence of life itself. But Maslow also warns, to live at the level of being is not easy. It requires courage, honesty, and a willingness to face reality as it is. It demands the abandonment of masks and illusions. This chapter is a turning point. It tells us that psychology is not only about healing wounds, but about guiding us toward greatness, authenticity, and transcendence. And so, Maslow asks us, will you choose to merely exist, or will you dare to live in the light of being? Chapter 4. Growth and motivation. Why do we grow? What makes a human being move forward instead of staying the same? This chapter is about the invisible force that pushes us to evolve motivation. Maslow explains that not all motivations are alike. Some are born out of deficiency: our hunger, our thirst, our need for safety and belonging. These are important, but they are only the beginning. Beyond them lies another kind of motivation, one that comes not from lack, but from abundance. This is the motivation for growth. Growth motivation is the inner drive to explore, to learn, to create, to connect, to expand. It is the child reaching out to touch the unknown, the artist painting without thought of reward, the thinker asking questions no one else dares to ask. When we are driven by growth motivation, life feels different. Instead of chasing what we don't have, we celebrate what we do have and stretch toward higher possibilities. This is the path that leads to self-actualization. Maslow contrasts these two. Deficiency-motivated people often live in anxiety, chasing what is missing. Growth-motivated people live in curiosity, wonder, and discovery. Growth is not automatic. It is a choice. At every moment, we stand at a crossroads to step forward into growth or to step back into safety. And so, this chapter challenges us with a powerful question: are we living to fill empty spaces, or are we living to expand into the fullness of who we can become? Chapter 5. The concept of B-values. In this chapter, Maslow introduces us to something profound, what he calls the B-values, or the values of being. Most of the time, we live our lives chasing after what we lack: food, comfort, approval, money. These are what Maslow calls deficiency needs. But once those needs are met, something higher awakens within us. We begin to seek values that are timeless, universal, and deeply fulfilling. These are the B-values: truth, the hunger for honesty, clarity, and reality as it truly is; beauty, the joy of harmony, balance, and grace in the world around us; goodness, the call toward kindness, justice, and compassion; wholeness, the experience of unity, integration, and connection; simplicity, the elegance of what is pure and essential, without unnecessary clutter; aliveness, the thrill of vitality, freshness, and being truly awake to life. For the self-actualizing person, these are not luxuries. They are necessities of the spirit. Just as the body needs food and water, the soul needs truth, beauty, and goodness. Maslow believed that when people connect with these B-values, they experience what he called peak experiences: moments of awe, joy, and transcendence that lift us beyond the ordinary. But here lies the challenge: the modern world often distracts us with shallow desires, pulling us away from the deeper values of being. To live by B-values requires courage to choose authenticity over approval, meaning over comfort, and depth over distraction. So, as you listen, pause for a moment and reflect: which of these values do you already feel alive in your life, and which are waiting for you to rediscover them? Chapter 6. The peak experience. Close your eyes for a moment and remember a time when you felt completely alive. Maybe it was standing before a breathtaking mountain. Maybe it was holding your child for the first time. Maybe it was losing yourself in music or in love. That overwhelming sense of joy, awe, and unity with life. Maslow calls this a peak experience. Peak experiences are those rare, shining moments when the boundaries of the self seem to dissolve, time slows down, or disappears altogether. Everything feels clearer, richer, more meaningful. It is as if, for a brief instant, we touch the eternal. Maslow noticed that self-actualizing people tend to have more of these moments. But peak experiences are not reserved for the extraordinary. They can happen to anyone through art, nature, love, creativity, or deep spiritual insight. During a peak experience, we feel connected to ourselves, to others, and to the universe. We see truth and beauty more directly. We feel grateful, humble, and profoundly alive. But Maslow also warns, peak experiences cannot be forced. They arrive as gifts, often when we are open, honest, and fully present in the moment. What we can do is create conditions that welcome them by seeking truth, embracing creativity, and living in alignment with our being values. Think of these experiences as windows. Through them, we glimpse the highest possibilities of human life. They remind us of what we are capable of, and they call us forward to live more deeply, more authentically, more fully. So ask yourself, when was the last time you felt truly alive? And are you ready to open yourself to more of those moments? Chapter 7. The Psychology of Growth. Human beings are not meant to remain static. Deep within us lives a force, a natural push toward growth, development, and unfolding. Just as a seed is designed to become a tree, so too are we designed to become more than what we are today. In this chapter, Maslow speaks of the psychology of growth. Growth, he says, is not an automatic guarantee. It is a path we must choose again and again. At every stage of life, we face a decision. Will we retreat into fear and safety, or will we step forward into courage and expansion? Maslow explains that growth is not always comfortable. In fact, it often feels risky. To grow means to leave behind the familiar, to face uncertainty, to challenge old patterns. Yet, those who choose growth discover a deeper satisfaction, a sense of purpose, fulfillment, and inner strength that cannot be found in comfort alone. Growth also requires honesty with oneself. It means looking at our weaknesses without denial, while still nurturing our strengths. It means refusing to live by masks or illusions and daring to be authentic. Maslow believed that each person carries within them a potential self, the fullest, truest version of who they could become. Growth is simply the process of moving closer to that self. So, the psychology of growth is really a psychology of courage, authenticity, and possibility. And Maslow leaves us with a choice: do we live only for safety and survival, or do we dare to embrace the risks of growth, and in doing so, discover who we are meant to be? Chapter 8: Self-Actualization and Transcendence. Up to this point, we have explored growth, values, and peak experiences. But now, Maslow takes us even higher to the very summit of human potential: self-actualization and transcendence. Self-actualization is the unfolding of one's true self, the realization of talents, creativity, love, and authenticity. But for Maslow, this is not the final step. Beyond self-actualization lies something greater: transcendence. What is transcendence? It is the moment when the self expands beyond itself, when our identity is no longer limited to me and mine, but flows outward into humanity, into nature, into the universe itself. A self-actualizing person may write a symphony, raise a child with love, or solve a great scientific puzzle, but a transcendent person feels a deeper unity with all of existence. They do not just express themselves, they dissolve into something larger, something eternal. Maslow describes transcendent experiences as moments of oneness: the artist who feels the painting paint itself, the scientist who feels part of the truth being revealed, the lover who feels that two hearts have become one, the spiritual seeker who feels united with the divine. This level of being brings a sense of peace, purpose, and compassion that goes beyond personal achievement. It is not about status, wealth, or recognition. It is about merging with the highest values of life: truth, beauty, goodness, and unity. Maslow believed that true maturity means moving from self-centered fulfillment toward transcendent contribution. In other words, the question shifts from, how can I become my best self, to, how can my best self serve something greater than me? And so, this chapter leaves us with a vision that the highest destiny of the human being is not just to actualize the self, but to transcend it, becoming a part of the wholeness of life itself. Chapter 9: The Search for Identity. Who am I? It is perhaps the oldest question in human history, and yet, each of us must face it in our own way. In this chapter, Maslow explores the search for identity. He reminds us that identity is not something we are simply handed at birth. It is something we must discover, shape, and sometimes fight for. Many people spend their lives wearing masks, pretending to be who others expect them to be. They live by borrowed dreams, second-hand values, and imposed roles. But beneath all of this lies the deeper self, the authentic I, awaiting to be uncovered. Maslow explains that the journey to identity is tied to growth and self-actualization. The stronger we become inside, the more courage we have to live as ourselves, not as a copy of someone else. True identity is built on self-knowledge, the willingness to look honestly at who we are, both our strengths and our weaknesses. Self-acceptance, the ability to embrace ourselves without shame or denial. Authenticity, the courage to express who we are, even when it is unpopular or misunderstood. But identity is not isolation. Knowing who we are also helps us connect with others more deeply because we are no longer hiding, no longer pretending. Maslow suggests that when we live authentically, life becomes richer and relationships become more real. We no longer waste energy on masks. Instead, we pour that energy into creativity, love, and growth. So the question remains: are you living as the person you truly are, or are you still trapped in roles that were written for you by someone else? Chapter 10: Creativity. Creativity is not just about painting masterpieces or composing symphonies. It is not reserved for artists, poets, or scientists. Maslow teaches us that creativity is a natural expression of being human. Every person has the capacity for creativity. It shows up when a child builds a castle out of sand, when a cook experiments with flavors, when a teacher invents a new way to inspire students. Creativity is the act of bringing something new into existence, something fresh, alive, and authentic. Maslow noticed that self-actualizing people often display a special kind of creativity. It is not always flashy or famous. Sometimes it is quiet, humble, and woven into daily life. But it is deeply personal. It comes from the core of who they are. True creativity, he explains, is linked to authenticity. When we live honestly, when we are not afraid to be ourselves, our natural creative impulses flow freely. But when we are trapped by fear, conformity, or the need to please others, creativity withers. Creativity also requires playfulness, or willingness to explore, to experiment, to risk mistakes. Children show this beautifully. They create without judgment, without fear of failure. As adults, we can learn from them to approach life with curiosity and openness. And here is the deeper truth. Creativity is not just about making things. It is about making life itself a work of art. It is about living in such a way that our choices, relationships, and actions reflect freshness and originality. So, Maslow leaves us with a challenge. Will you live passively, repeating what has already been done? Or will you live creatively, shaping your life as a unique expression of who you are? Chapter 11, Education and Growth. Education. What is it really for? Is it only about memorizing facts, passing exams, and getting a job? Or is it something deeper, something that shapes the very growth of the human soul? In this chapter, Maslow challenges us to rethink education. He argues that true education must be more than training minds. It must also nurture hearts, spirits, and potential. Traditional systems often produce conformity. Students are taught what to think, but not how to discover truth for themselves. They are rewarded for obedience, but not for creativity. Maslow believed that such an approach stunts growth. It keeps people from reaching self-actualization. Instead, he dreamed of an education that encourages curiosity and wonder, values questions as much as answers, develops independence, creativity, and authenticity, helps students discover their unique talents and purpose. For Maslow, a classroom should not just prepare people for work. It should prepare them for life, teaching them how to love, how to create, how to think freely, and how to become their best selves. Education, then, is not about filling empty minds with information. It is about lighting a fire that inspires growth, courage, and self-discovery. Imagine an education that does not simply produce workers, but nurtures whole human beings. Imagine schools that do not just train us to survive, but empower us to thrive. And so, Maslow leaves us with this vision. A true education is not the end of growth. It is the beginning of a lifelong journey toward wisdom, creativity, and being. Chapter 12, Psychological Health. What does it mean to be truly healthy? Is health just the absence of disease, or is it something much greater? In this chapter, Maslow invites us to expand our understanding of psychological health. Traditionally, psychology has focused on what is broken, on neuroses, disorders, and dysfunction. But Maslow asks us, why not also study what is strong, what is whole, what is fully alive? For him, true health is not simply about removing problems. It is about creating a life filled with meaning, joy, and growth. A psychologically healthy person is not someone who never struggles. Rather, they are someone who faces reality honestly, without denial or distortion, accepts themselves, flaws and all, without sinking into shame, builds deep, authentic relationships instead of shallow connections, balances independence with community, solitude with love, experiences gratitude, joy, and moments of transcendence. Health, in Maslow's view, is not perfection. It is wholeness, the ability to live fully, even with imperfections. He also reminds us that health is not static. It is a process, a constant becoming. Just as the body grows and adapts, so too must the mind and spirit. To be healthy is to keep moving forward, to keep choosing growth over fear, authenticity over conformity, and love over apathy. So ask yourself, are you merely avoiding sickness, or are you actively cultivating health, wholeness, and the fullness of being? Chapter 13, Love, Relationships, and Community. Human beings are not meant to live alone. Deep within us is the need for connection, for love, for belonging. But what does real love look like? And how can relationships help us grow into our best selves? In this chapter, Maslow explores love, relationships, and community as essential parts of psychological health and self-actualization. He explains that there are two kinds of love: deficiency love, D-love, a love based on need, on filling in emptiness. It is often clingy, insecure, and dependent. Being love, B-love, a higher form of love freely given, rooted in appreciation, respect, and joy in the other person's existence. B-love is not about possession. It is about celebration. It does not demand or control. It nurtures and supports. When two people share being love, their relationship becomes a space where both can grow, explore, and flourish. But love is not only about romance. Maslow reminds us that community also matters. We thrive when we feel part of something larger than ourselves: a family, a group, a cause, humanity itself. True community is built on authenticity, trust, and mutual respect. At the same time, love requires courage. To open ourselves to others means risking vulnerability, honesty, and even rejection. Yet without this risk, life remains shallow and incomplete. Ultimately, Maslow shows us that love and community are not distractions from growth, they are pathways to it. Through genuine relationships, we discover deeper truths about ourselves. Through love, we learn to transcend the self and touch something greater. And so, this chapter leaves us with a reminder: to be fully human is to love deeply, to connect authentically, and to live in communion with others. Chapter 14, Toward a Psychology of Being. This chapter brings us to the heart of Maslow's vision, a new kind of psychology, one that does not just study illness, but celebrates health, one that does not only repair what is broken, but nurtures what is whole. Maslow calls this the psychology of being. Traditional psychology has been problem-centered. It has asked, why do people fail? Why do they suffer? Why do they break down? But the psychology of being asks different questions. What makes life worth living? What allows human beings to flourish? What are the highest possibilities of human existence? In this vision, psychology is not just about survival, it is about transcendence. It is about studying the best in human beings: creativity, love, joy, courage, authenticity, and wisdom. Maslow believed that every person carries within them the seeds of greatness. When given the right conditions, safety, love, freedom, and challenge, those seeds can grow into self-actualization and beyond. The psychology of being also shifts our view of human nature. Instead of seeing people as selfish, weak, or broken, it sees them as inherently capable of goodness, growth, and transcendence. It recognizes that while fear and conflict exist, so do courage and compassion. And most importantly, this psychology is not only for the gifted or extraordinary, it is for everyone. Each of us has the potential to rise beyond deficiency, to embrace being values, and to taste the richness of life. So Maslow asks us, as he closes this vision, will we settle for a psychology of sickness and limitation, or will we help build a psychology of being, one that honors the highest, noblest, and most beautiful possibilities of the human spirit? ChatGPT said, Chapter 15, The Future of Human Possibility. As we reach the end of this journey, Maslow invites us to look forward into the future of human beings and the future of psychology itself. He reminds us that the story of humanity is not finished. We are still evolving, still unfolding, still discovering what we are capable of. Each generation holds the chance to rise higher than the one before. The question is not simply, how do we fix what is broken? The deeper question is, how do we build a world where human beings can thrive? Maslow imagines a society where education nurtures curiosity and creativity instead of conformity, where work is not just a way to earn money, but a way to express one's gifts, where relationships are built on being love, not on fear or possession. He dreams of a world where people live not only for survival, but for transcendence, where truth, beauty, goodness, and justice are not abstract ideals, but daily realities. But he also warns us, such a future will not come automatically. It requires choice, courage, and commitment. Each of us must take responsibility for our own growth and for helping others to grow as well. The psychology of the future, Maslow says, must be a psychology of hope, of strength, of possibility. It must show us not only what humans are, but what humans can become. And so, this final chapter leaves us with an invitation: do not be content with a life of mere survival. Do not settle for the minimum. Instead, dare to seek the fullness of being. Dare to live with authenticity, creativity, and love. For in doing so, you do not just change your own life, you help shape the future of humanity itself.